Warning: the following program contains language which some may find offensive. Some words have been censored just because of the times we live in. Listener discretion advised.
This message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
I will not have sexual relations with that woman.
I am El Nino. All the tropical storms must bow before El Nino. And what you gonna do when all the media in all parts of the world revolve on you?
Because some came in the mail today.
Yeah, I did.
These nuts. Got him. Now you
Yep. Headphones. Yes. All right. We're good. We're good.
On this mic?
All right. Yep. All right. Just kind of hold it close to your mouth. All right. Brian Fukuda. What's up? Hey, guys. Hey, we got an audience here. So, welcome to Comedy Simp, the podcast you can't resist. AI made that up. I don't know if you know that. I've been playing a lot with AI lately. AFI is a great band, but no, I've been playing a lot with AI lately. And so I made some songs. I made some theme songs for the Comedy Simp podcast that will debut soon, Brian Fukuda.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
You're here. Seattle comedian, Brian here, legend. He's been here at the Whiskey Mile, Sam's Open Mic, since the beginning, right?
I think I missed the very beginning, but I came kind of maybe a few months in.
Few months. All right. Yeah. So that was what, late 2023 or early 2024?
Something like that.
Something like that. All right. So let's talk about Brian. Who are you, man? First of all, does it bother you that you have a bad word in your last name?
You know, it's come up
growing up
a few times.
Yeah. Did people ever say your name wrong intentionally?
No. Most of the time, they pronounce the most common mispronunciations weren't the bad way that you would think.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would get a lot of Fukuda.
I couldn't even say it right because I'm a terrible person, and I just don't know. I don't pay attention.
Or I had a baseball coach who would always call me Fukuda for like years and years.
So you played baseball, huh? When did you play baseball?
Yeah. I played, all growing up when I was little, like Little League.
Yeah, I did Little League too.
Starting
That's
at T-ball, that kind of thing.
Single A, double A,
and then
triple A. Right?
Yeah, and then I had a stint in the show, but that didn't work out.
So, what was your position normally in baseball?
No, I kind of played here and there. Usually second base, outfield. I played a year and a half, 2 years, and 2 years in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of when I gave that up.
How did you feel about the other players on the team once you were getting into high school? Because for me, I quit in the middle of AAA because I just felt like it was getting too serious. That was during the time when the guys were turning their backs before they were throwing the pitch and that kind of stuff. And I was just like, they're already scouting in the 6th grade. So I was like, I'm done with this. But what about you? How did you feel about was there scouts? Did they take sports very seriously wherever you went to school? Where did you go to school?
Well, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm just guessing that baseball was probably bigger in. You were in Southern California?
Northern California, actually.
But I'd be willing to bet that baseball is probably a little bit bigger in California than in Chicago, at least with the kids stuff.
Probably, because the
'Cause the
weather.
weather-
The weather's just great. I mean, the big thing for me where I was from is soccer. Not only I hate saying it like this, but you didn't need a lot of money to play soccer. You basically just needed the outfit and the shin guards. And a lot of, lower, poorer families played soccer, And, a lot of that was minorities and where I was from. I was part of it, though. I didn't play soccer, but I was in no means one of the middle-class people either. I was what they call poor white trash, Brian.
Oh, well, you sure fooled me.
Poor white trash from Northern California. But our kind of trash is different because we recycle, Like it's biodegradable trash, It's not that trash in Chicago, that stuff that, Al Capone and all those guys were up to,
So what town did you grow up in?
So I was born in a town called Woodland, California. It was right outside of Sacramento. About 30 minutes outside of Sac. Sac is what we call it. That's a nickname, Sac. What's also funny is there's an old part, a historical area of Sacramento called Old Sacramento, and there's a comedy club there called Laughs Unlimited. Jerry Seinfeld used to go there back in the early 80s, and one of his big jokes was like, you couldn't come up with a better name than Old Sac, like that's what you guys call it, Seinfeld. So, but Chicago, huh? How long have you been here? Have you lived anywhere else besides Chicago, or?
So I grew up not in the city, but in
outside,
the north suburbs, and I basically spent my whole childhood there, and then
a lot of great comedy out of Chicago.
Yeah.
Second City, all those greats, Chris Farley, guys like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a different type of scene from what I could gather from my limited time going to Mike's there.
So how long did you live there? When did you move?
Oh, well,
how old? What was your age when you left?
I spent basically my whole 0 to 18 in the same suburb.
Yeah,
and then went to college at the University of Illinois, which
Nice.
is about 3 hours south of Chicago.
Good. Is it like Northridge or what's the city?
Champaign-Urbana.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of the campus straddles to.
I used to work for a
town.
biotech company, and we used to send a lot of biologicals to University of Illinois. So that's why I was trying to think of the cities that pop up and stuff like that. But regardless, that's not even that interesting. So 18, and then what?
And then right out of college, that's when I moved here, or out to the Seattle area in 2001, summer of 2001.
Wow. And you've been here ever since?
Yeah, been out here ever since.
So just living in two places. So what was your first impressions when you first came here? What was it like back then in the early 2000s? Seattle, people talk about Seattle in the 90s, and then the late 90s, the tech boom and all that, and then early 2000s, I would just imagine it was just a lot of that tech, a lot of.
Yeah, when I first moved out, the tech was mostly focused around Redmond.
Yeah.
And a good buddy of mine that I went to high school with, and he was also at Illinois. He moved out to Redmond, right when I moved here, and he was working for Microsoft. So initially, probably the first few years I was here, it was kind of before Amazon took off, before Google was here. So it was mainly Microsoft kind of, a lot of techies on the east side working at Microsoft.
Now, did you work in tech, or what did you do when you weren't, before comedy? What were you doing?
Oh, the reason I came out is I worked at Boeing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Boeing is huge here, even though they're moving a lot of jobs over to South Carolina or something like that.
Yeah, they moved a big production line out to Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston. Shout out Charleston. If you would like to book me and Brian, just send me a DM. We will fly out there for you. I bet. Have you ever done comedy in the South?
Texas.
Texas?
But I don't know if that really counts.
Yeah,
It's kinda
Texas
different.
is like its own thing. I've never. This is like horrible. I hate to admit these things. Because I'm 38 years old. But I've never been to Texas, and I've never been to Las Vegas. Well, okay, not true. I've been to Vegas with my dad as like a passenger, like passing through it. But I've never been to Vegas like party, gamble, let's go have some fun. Kind of never had that. So yeah, Texas. I hear a lot of things about Texas. I know a lot of people that have been to Texas. When did you go out there, and was it strictly for comedy?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I kind of just wanted to check out Austin. So I took 2 trips to Austin.
And when was this? What years?
Once was last fall,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other time was maybe 6 months before that, something like that.
Okay. And so what was it like down there? What'd you do?
I did some open mics and signed up for Kill Tony.
Okay, hold on, Brian. Let's go back.
Yeah, I know.
Let's
I
go
saw
back
some-
because I just want to see what's your mindset when you get off of the plane in Austin and you get out. I mean, do you immediately recognize comedy somewhere? Because like in LA, you immediately see Disneyland. Like as soon as you get off the plane, there's a Disneyland something or there's a Hollywood something. And so everyone says Austin is the new Mecca. And then again, like with Vegas, like as soon as you get off the plane, there's slot machines. So like how long did it take you until you saw the first glimpse of anything comedy in Austin?
I think I probably going down on 6th Street, just walking past the mothership.
So getting off the plane. So you didn't really, there wasn't, because I get this picture in my mind, this image of all these people, like it's, like when we were kids and you would hear about people, everybody wants to be an actor and they all want to go to Hollywood and they all want to make it, and you just, thousands and thousands of people going on auditions. In my head, this is what I feel about Austin, is that there's thousands of comedians out there trying to do comedy. Is it like that?
I think so, but my impression was that it's pretty different from LA. And granted, I've been to LA, but I never tried to do comedy there.
Yeah.
I was there for work, before I did stand up. But my understanding of like the LA scene, the New York scene, it's just very different than Austin from what I could gather. Austin seemed kind of, it's almost like a Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe like mini cult or something.
That's
Versus like a big industry.
That sounds accurate. From what I would imagine in my head, it's a lot of male-driven humor, right? Like male testosterone, kind of, a little edgy, a little racist, little kind of some things that maybe shouldn't say in Seattle.
Yeah. So one thing that you might find this interesting, and then it kind of backs up what you're saying, and kind of what drove my impression a little bit is that I signed up for one of the mothership open mics.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Kill Tony; it was a dedicated open mic, and for the sign up, there was a line down 6th Street, pretty long, and it was 95% white guys in their mid-20s to, let's say, mid-30s.
Beards.
Who looked like they might do jujitsu. Right? So they were probably big Joe Rogan
I think
fans,
that's good for you, though, because it helps you stand out a little bit, right?
Yeah, and then what was interesting, too, is that, like they do at a lot of good open mics, or I think, and by good, I would say the open mics that are run more like shows, whether that's good or bad, it's kind of just apples to oranges. But the open mics that are run like shows, they tend to curate them more than just show up, go up, or bucket pulls. And that's what they were doing at Mothership, where everyone, 100 people signed up, but most of the list, I didn't see those people in line. They
Yeah.
knew somebody.
It's like locals
Yeah.
or even people that are like, could be headliners here,
Yeah, and then also it was the actual lineup that went up was way more diverse.
Really?
Yeah, because it was, there were
Was-
3 or 4 black
hold on.
guys or a bunch of women, and they weren't in line.
Did they do the thing with the phones? Did they put the phones in the bag?
Yeah, so I didn't get picked for that mic, but
Oh, okay.
I paid to go watch it
Yeah.
in the little room just to see it.
How much does it cost to get in?
I think those tickets are, I don't remember. It's like
$20?
15, 20
Oh,
bucks or
okay.
something. But
Reasonable.
Yeah.
And,
then
was
I
it
think
easy to get a ticket back then? Because I hear it's really hard to get in. So
for those open mic shows, the way they do it is the first hour is an open mic show, but it's like a curated open mic.
yeah.
And then after that, they do the staff show.
Mm-hmm.
So for the open mic, they do an hour, 3-minute sets,
Yeah.
and then they would do longer. I think, but they weren't that long. I think they were mostly like 5-minute sets
Yeah.
of the staff people at the mothership. And then I want to say they might have had I think they did have a feature or a closer do a longer set.
So that's Austin. Austin in a nutshell. Well, I'll go there one day. Everybody, I just made a reel today about Kill Tony, and it's,
Yeah, I saw that with Devore.
yeah, who's coming tonight? Mike Devore.
But I'll add because I just saw that reel where he said that he was on 3 times.
Yeah.
In the waiting area for Kill Tony, I chatted with a few people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surprised how many people that I talked to briefly who said, "Oh, I've done it. Yeah, I've done it before."
Wow.
Not sign up, but that they actually got picked.
Yeah.
So if you go, like the guys who live there,
Yeah.
if they go most weeks
Yeah.
and sign up most weeks,
The odds,
eventually they get picked.
Yeah. Oh. It's I feel weird about that show because and I talked about it on my last podcast. During like COVID and stuff, I started watching it a lot, and it was during the time of that show where they actually didn't even have an audience because they couldn't, because of restrictions, and it was a very weird, awkward show. And then it just kind of had this weird charm to it. And then I started watching it as people were allowed to come to watch the show live, and then seeing all the like kind of drama unfold with them moving to Texas, and then kind of seeing Tony get canceled. Like I was kind of in it. And then I don't know, maybe as I started doing my own comedy, it's the same thing as when you start writing your own songs. Like it feels like you listen to less and less music because you're trying to have your own thing. And so I just it's I like that what they're doing for comedy. I like that it allows people to have this platform, but I don't like some of the aspects of it, some of the predictable, like some of the I don't want to say their names because I might do shows with them one day, but some of the regulars doing the same thing every week, and just not living up to, what a live show should be. It's better. This is why we spend a lot of time crafting these jokes, and it takes, sometimes it's painful, and we got to do it like 10 times before it even gets a little laugh. So to try and do something new every week, and then people who are not comedians, and especially like hardcore comedy fans, they don't understand the amount of work it takes. So then they see it as just like, this guy's not good. And I'm not saying that they're not good. It's just like, it's not fair that they have to go out there with half-baked material.
Yeah, and I haven't been watching lately, but when they had the thing where Hans Kim would go up every week with a new minute,
Yeah.
I really didn't like that because I think that's, like you said, it's too much pressure. It's too, especially with a good joke writer like Hans. I think he's gonna have some not so great jokes, and
I've
should
heard
be expected.
And I've heard about this, and maybe somebody out there who's watching can confirm this, that this guy, he's really meticulous with the way he writes, and he's got like Excel spreadsheets and jokes here and there, and it's a autistic math equation for him with the way he writes his material. So, I would never do. I could never do that. So I appreciate that, and just as an outsider,
Yeah. Well, we know some people who know him or knew him when he was doing comedy. Out
Yeah.
here.
No. I mean, shout out to Jason McBride, who comes here often. Whiskey Mile. Shout out to Mike Mazzotti, who I read his book, and he's probably tired of me shouting him out, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And
Robbie Schrader.
Robbie Schrader and Joey Cruz. All these guys know knew Hans Kim. Casey Judson also, So John Banning. But yeah, it's just really cool to see somebody from Seattle do something, But yeah, it's if you come out there with a half-baked idea and it's on YouTube, and then you try to go out on the road, people would be like, I already saw that on YouTube,
Yeah, that's what I thought was interesting. Going to see Hans when he played at Laughs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was either the first or the second time he did Laughs as like a headliner, and half of his jokes I heard on Kill Tony.
Oh yeah.
But as a comic, I understand that. Like, I know why he's doing that. It's because it's especially as someone who writes short jokes. How do you fill an hour with short jokes unless you repeat some of them that, some of the killers?
I just watched Dave Attell's new special that came out like a couple months ago, and it's 40 mints, It's
barely 40 minutes.
And it's like, that's what I do too. Like, I started to watch like a Tom Segura special. Like, I've seen his newest one. I saw his first one, so I was watching one of the ones in the middle, and I just wasn't into it. I would really love to learn how to tell stories better, but yeah, right now I'm just a short joke writer, and like Dave Attell says, it is so hard to come up with 10 minutes, 15 minutes of material when you're writing these little 30-second, 20-second jokes, and you kind of do that too. You're a joke writer.
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, you kind of you're able to. Well, before we get into that, have you ever seen Neil Brennan's 3 Mics stand-up special?
I did see it, but it was a while ago.
So basically the concept of it is he's got 3 mics and he does 3 styles of comedy. He does one-liners, he does regular stand-up, conversational, and then he does emotional stand-up. And like, you have a mix of the joke writing and the conversational thing, and like, I would love to get more into that conversational thing, but it's just like, I'm at the point where I'm just not happy with my jokes yet. So anyways, like you said, go.
Oh, now I forgot what I was talking about.
Well,
Attell,
Dave Attell.
So I went to see Attell in Portland.
Nice.
I think it was about a year and a half ago now.
Nice. I saw him in 2019. So.
And what was interesting is that Attell did some crazy number of shows at Helium.
Yeah, like
where he could have done a couple of shows at a theater, but I think I'm just assuming that he prefers to do the club shows, so he'll just go to Helium, and if they need to add more shows, he just adds more shows. Because I think they did the thing where, they book him, Friday, Saturday, and then when those sell out, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, that sells out. Then they add Sunday, and then that sells out, and then they add
Yeah.
Thursday. So I think I'm pretty sure I went to one of his Thursday shows.
Yeah.
I can't even remember, but I remember it was, they went pretty quick because it's Dave Attell. And
Helium's a great club too. I saw Ari Shaffir there right before his Jew special came out, and then after that, when he came to Seattle, it was like Adam Tiller opened up for him at the Paramount. So.
oh yeah, I was at that show.
Oh, you did? You went to
Yeah.
that? Yeah. No, that. And then I remember Ari did a lot of stuff because that special had just come out. I was like, what is he going to do? And he did a lot of stuff about getting a dog and why he shouldn't get a dog. I don't know if you remember that, but it was good.
One interesting thing about that Ari Shaffir show with Adam opening is that what I found kind of amusing, I would say, is that Adam would be at all the open mics in Seattle, right? He does, big shows on his own, right? Like opening for Ari.
Yeah.
But he would go to like some not the best sometimes open mics and just do sets.
Shout out Woodskis. I love you, Joseph. But shout out Woodskis. Shout out. What's another?
I remember seeing him at Waterwheel.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring it up
Fourbees.
is that I remember hearing
A1 Hop Shop was awesome. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember hearing all of Adam's jokes.
Oh yeah,
at Waterwheel.
Yes.
And then he would just get like a chuckle here and there because everyone there, all the comics there, have heard his jokes because he goes to so many mics, right? So everyone in the Seattle scene has seen his sets. And then what was interesting is to see him at a theater and then to hear a whole theater laugh at those jokes. So that was kind of
laughter
eye-opening to me.
Laughter multiplies, and that's why as comics open mics are so difficult to judge whether your stuff is funny or not, because not only, like you said, the comics have heard those jokes so many times, but you might only have 3 or 4 people, and those 3 or 4 people might not have that humor, that kind of humor, that sensibility. And I've noticed, like, when I do shows for 40 people, it's like huge. It's huge, like, whoa. It's nothing like, and it's the same jokes that we're telling here at the Whiskey Mile for a lot of people. A lot of people come here. But, so I can never, what's the biggest audience you've performed for so far in your career?
It was probably either an open mic at the Laugh Factory in Chicago on a busy night, or maybe one of my graduation shows at Laughs when I did a class with Andrew Frank.
Yeah.
Because for those graduation shows, they would pack. Laughs would be basically sold out.
Yeah.
So
and it's
those
like
were
200
always,
people or something.
Yeah, those were always great audiences. And then the Laugh Factory in Chicago is a great setup because it's a club, but it has a balcony, so it almost feels like a small theater.
Yeah.
As much as it feels like a club.
Yeah.
So that was a great audience and a great room.
The Laugh Factory, sorry to all Laugh Factories out there, but because of the one in LA, I just always think of the Michael Richards video. If you guys haven't seen it, go stop this podcast and go Google Michael Richards Laugh Factory.
Wait, why don't you remind everyone what Michael Richards said?
I'm gonna have to plead the fifth on that one. Let's just move on. But anyways, we've been all over, dude. But back to when you first came here, it said 2001 and stuff. Did you want to do comedy back then? Did you watch comedy at all?
I watched comedy casually, but it wasn't even on my radar that I would do comedy.
Yeah.
When I first came out here, I was really probably more into music.
Yeah.
If
What
yeah.
kind of music were you into at the time?
You know, I would say generally your alt rock kind of indie type stuff.
Yeah. Like
a
local bands or kind of like bigger bands? I mean, like, because when you say alt rock, I kind of start thinking about like, oh man, what's that band that just played here? A Death Cab for Cutie or like Sunny Day Real Estate or.
Yeah, like I wasn't into those particular bands.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you listen to a station that played them, that's the kind of stuff.
Oh,
stations
you
I would
mean
listen
like
to.
you were listening to what's the hip station? The hip one that has all the.
KEXP.
Yeah, KXEP. Were you listening to that?
Yeah,
at the time?
I would listen to KEXP every morning on my drive to Boeing.
There were so many great bands that I discovered on YouTube that played in the studios at KEXP. Like there's this band Foxing, you know, Tiny Moving Parts, all sorts of stuff like that. There was another band. Oh man, I don't even remember their name, but they got canceled. Just like all my favorite bands, they get canceled. But so you're into music,
yeah, and then one.
but casually comedy. What would you say? Like, was it like Eddie Murphy? You know, Robin Williams, just the mainstream stuff, or did you know of some of the guys at the time that were like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr? And
So in the 90s, I was in high school in the mid 90s.
yeah,
So growing up in that era, Saturday Night Live was huge.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Norm Macdonald, David Spade.
yeah. I mean, I love all those guys. I mean, Chris Farley, Adam
Chris Farley,
Sandler,
yeah.
you know,
Chris
Chris Rock. You know.
And then even before that, I started watching SNL when I was pretty young because of Dana Carvey.
Oh yeah, me
So
too.
So
yeah,
that's kind of when I started kind of consuming comedy, was probably like.
I watched a lot of SNL as a kid as well. I mean, my mom had this VHS tape, and it was like the 15th anniversary, and it had like a greatest hits collection of all the greatest like skits of like the early days, and then the Eddie Murphy years, and then the Joe Piscopo years. Hey. We got a crowd coming here. Sam's open mic. So, anyways, back to what we're saying here.
Yeah, so I think, you know, when I was in high school, the comedy that I was exposed to was pre-internet being a huge thing. It was everyone was essentially exposed to the same comedy.
Yeah.
You know, the HBO specials, the Comedy Central specials.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. SNL.
Some of the people that stand out in my mind from being a child would be like Richard Belzer, Richard Lewis,
Yeah, those.
Dana Gould.
So like the 80s.
Those
guys.
kind of guys. Well, the 80s and then there were 90s too, like Sinbad, the Wayans, all the Wayans guys, Martin Lawrence, but. Yeah, I didn't understand like all the alt comedy stuff until way later, like the Patton Oswalt and Mitch Hedberg and all that. I didn't discover that till way later. But
yeah, and I guess, you know, growing up with comedy, I was big into Letterman.
Oh, yeah,
and late night.
I loved. Yeah, same. Me too. I watched Conan, like the original Late Night with Conan O'Brien. I watched that a bunch when I was a kid. They used to do this weird. Because it was on so late, they would have these weird, like, they had a character called the Masturbating Bear, and it was a guy in a bear costume who would just, you know, and then they had Triumph, the insult comic dog, and they just did a lot of, Craig Ferguson did stuff like that too. Like, I will always have, like, love for late night because of that kind of stuff. Letterman, he did some, like, he would get people like Bill Murray and Tom Waits and Harmony Korine that nobody else would get. So, like, that was always cool too. But yeah, no, I understand. Like, before stand-up, that was it. TV comedy, sketch comedy. I loved that. Later, you know, Kids in the Hall. And
yeah. So did you have any particular comedian when you were younger in the late night TV era? When it would, I guess in the 90s, it was kind of like the peak of late night with Leno and Letterman kind of going at it, and then Conan. Did you have a favorite stand-up who would appear on those shows?
I don't know about stand-up. Like, I don't know if I really paid a lot of attention to stand-up when I was that young, but, like, I would watch the interviews. So, like, I loved, well, like I said, Bill Murray earlier, and who else would come on that was really good? God, man, I'm just drawing a blank at this point, but it'll come back to me later. There was a lot of great late night guests that would come on those shows, and Jim Carrey. I was a big Jim Carrey fan as a kid. Watched all of his movies. I had a little poster book of Jim Carrey that I got when I was a kid. I mean, when Batman Forever came out, I was all for it. I was like, yes, Jim Carrey, the Riddler. All right, you know. But I didn't really, like I've said before on this podcast, that I didn't really think about doing stand up until a few years ago. But what about you? Like, when did it become something that you were like, I might want to try that?
Fairly recently, I would say.
Yeah. Few years.
Maybe 5 years ago or something. That it kind of.
Was there anything
in
in particular that set it off, or was it just like something that built up over time? Did you know anybody who ever did stand up?
No, I never really knew any comics growing up, or when I was working. But I became kind of more of a comedy fan from watching Tosh.0.
Oh, Tosh is great.
I just really, really liked Daniel Tosh.
Yeah, and his writers, his writing staff, just for him to be able to do that stuff like every week and like write those like super punchy jokes and then bring in some of the people that were in those videos and interview them. Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of because of Tosh.0, I would watch Tosh's Comedy Central specials, and then that kind of got me, as an adult, I think that kind of pulled me toward comedy more.
Yeah.
Probably Tosh more than anyone else. And then maybe Aziz Ansari.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is kind of obscure, but Aziz had a 2-person comedy show on MTV called Human Giant.
Don't remember this. We're gonna have to.
No one remembers it.
But I'm link in the description.
But it's kind of a similar setup to Portlandia, where it like a sketch thing, but only a 2-person show.
Yeah.
And it was Aziz and then this other guy that I don't even know what the other guy's name is.
Yeah.
But they had some killer bits on that, and then so like he got on my radar, and then I would watch like Flight of the Conchords, that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, again great.
Portlandia. Oh, and kind of randomly, going back to when I said that I first moved out here, I was really into music.
Yeah.
I got really into the band Slater-Kinney.
Oh yeah, yeah, great band.
I just remember when I came out here, I came out while I was still a senior in college. I had a interview trip to go talk to Boeing.
Yeah.
And they gave me a rental car, and that was my first time in Seattle. As I got to spend a weekend in the Seattle area, and it was just a coincidence that driving down I-5, going through Olympia, you see signs for
Slater-Kinney. Yeah.
Road, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if that was a sign or anything, but that kind of jumped out at me as like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. I like that band, and they're.
To be honest, you could prove me wrong. I don't take you for a religious person, right? Yes.
Not
really.
Not really. Not organized religion.
Yeah. So with me, not me either, but I do believe in like signs and things like that, and like things are supposed to happen. Like I did have a thing recently where I was like, maybe I shouldn't stop hanging out with this person. Maybe I should stop hanging out with this person, and then that person's like, I don't want to hang out with you. So it ended up working out great.
We have a guest.
You know? Hey.
We got a guess.
Is it hot or what?
So hot, the ice cream man had to sell milk.
I don't want to eat and drink milk on a hot day. That would be terrible.
All right, Abby, let's go.
So break it down. When was the first open mic? Where was it? When was it? Tell us.
You know, I think the first time I got on stage for comedy, it was at Laughs as part of Andrew Frank's
Okay,
comedy
the class. What? So you looked up this class. What made you choose Andrew Frank's class over any other comedy class? Because there's quite a few out there they choose from.
Probably the biggest thing to me was that I could see that Laughs was booking big names,
Yes.
big national names.
They do.
right?
They do.
So that gave some legitimacy to it.
Yeah.
In my eyes. But with, you know, and it's interesting because I've taken a couple of different comedy classes,
Mm-hmm.
and there are different ways to try to teach comedy. I
Yeah.
think it's a hard thing to teach.
Oh yeah.
But what I liked about Andrew's class, and I liked it enough that I ended up doing it twice,
Mm-hmm.
is that probably the biggest thing for anyone thinking about doing the class is the graduation show. You'll get to do a show in a packed room that's very, very friendly, that's unusually friendly.
Yeah.
Right? You're probably not going to get that kind of stage time ever as a new comedian.
Not
mean,
not for a long time.
Yeah, not for a long time.
So it's a nice little confidence boost before they kick you out in the world.
Yeah, so that's number one. That's the biggest draw to me of the comedy
It's
classes.
like fellas, if a beautiful woman takes your virginity and then kicks you to the curb. Right? I don't know. Mike, you want to join us? All right, let's grab a bench. I got some glasses.
I got a pair.
All right.
Grab a pair just in case.
We got another comedian joining us here, Mike Devore, just sit in the middle here.
Ooh, feel like I'm back
Yeah.
on an airplane.
Yeah.
What was your name again?
Oh, I'm
Or this
Brian
is Brian.
Fukuda.
What was it?
Brian.
Fukuda.
Brian? Nice to meet you, Brian.
Wow. Listen, there is no Asian hate on this podcast, people. Look at this.
Just Asian
Asian
self-hate.
love.
Self-hate.
So, you just joined us in time because Brian here, been doing comedy 5 years,
Oh, shit.
been in Seattle since
Less than 5 years.
2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're talking about his first time on stage.
Okay.
He went to Andrew Frank's comedy class at Laughs Comedy Club.
Okay. all
Performed in front of a packed house, friendly folks, 200 people, and we were just saying how that is not a realistic view of what your career in comedy is going to be like once you graduate the class. So it's kind of more like, here you go, this is a fun thing to celebrate, and now the real work's about to begin.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. How'd you feel about it?
You can scoot up a little bit, Brian,
yeah.
so we can all be in the frame here.
I love the show. The graduation show was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't talk about the class itself, but I took classes with Andrew and then also with Taylor Clark.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of good to see two schools of thought on how to try to teach comedy.
Two different styles of comedy, really, too.
Yeah.
You know?
Like what I like about Andrew, the way he ran his class, he's a good facilitator. Like he just says, hey, why don't you go up? You got a couple minutes. Why don't you do your couple of minutes, and then we'll give you feedback. But, you know, he's not...
Rob Mon! Shout out!
But, you know, Andrew's not stopping people. He's not saying, hey, you're doing it wrong. You
Yeah.
know.
He allows you to explore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he'll say, I like this, and this, and maybe you could work on that little thing. And then he would have the rest of the class kind of say, well, what did you like? What did you not like? What do you think worked? What didn't work?
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Whereas I took a Comedy 201 class with Taylor Clark, and what I liked about Taylor's approach is he was more of because it was a 201 class, everyone had done some comedy before. So it was a little bit more technical, which for my brain, my comedy brain, I really like.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, maybe you should order your set in this kind of way.
I kind of like that too, to be honest. Now that you talk about it, I might need that class.
Yeah, so Taylor was great in that sense, but very different from Andrew. And then the graduation show for Taylor's class was great as well.
So basically, like Andrew's class allowed you to build the fundamentals and the foundation, and then Taylor's class basically like kind of like sharpened it a little bit. That's how I interpret that.
Yeah. Well, then also the class that I took with Taylor was a 201, so it was kind of designed that way. And then Andrew's was more of like, hey, why don't you go up there, do what you think is funny, and then we'll give you some feedback on how to kind of steer you, in one direction or another.
I love that. That's awesome. That's good. I like that a lot.
So before you came here, we were talking about your friend Adam. He opened up for Ari Shafir at a theater, and we're talking about the difference between doing comedy at an open mic versus with a big audience. And it's just like doing comedy at an open mic is really hard to gauge whether your joke is that funny because, one, you have the comics that have heard your jokes a million times, and two, you got maybe a very small selection of people, whereas, you perform in front of 40, 50 people, you're going to get laughs, usually, if you're, an average comedian. So, question for you, Mike, what's the biggest crowd that you perform for?
I've done a theater
to date.
To date, I think one of the theaters I did in Olympia during this 2019 Seattle International Comedy Competition, it was just like this big theater with like...
This alarm is awesome.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Oh,
there you go. Get heckled by a car alarm. So
this is like the COVID the drive-in comedy shows where they were doing comedy in the cars
in Portland.
Yeah. So, anyways, good.
My buddy started that, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Portland.
What's his name?
Brent Lowry.
Brent Lowry. I know that guy.
Yeah.
He won the competition, right?
Yeah.
So. This is the competition we're talking about,
yeah,
right?
So I did it back in 2019, and like there's just this one. It's just the first one that comes to my mind because like it was a theater. It was like multi-leveled, like different mezzanines and all that shit, and like it was interesting because you had to pace yourself. You had to like at least with clubs and open mics, you get instant feedback, but like you in the theater, you kind of have to like. At least with my experience, you kind of have to like delay it a little bit because like it takes a second for it to hit the audience. So that was an interesting experience. So
now, do either of you guys ever get nervous before going up?
I still get nervous.
Really?
I still get nervous every single time. I was nervous. I was in San Diego this last weekend, and I was back home, my home club, Madhouse Comedy Club, and every single show I was feeling the nerves. But like instead of like trying to fight them as I used to do before I came back to comedy, I now embrace them. I'm just like, hey, this is how you're feeling. It could go either way. You can either bomb or you can succeed. It's up to you. So I'm like, all right. So.
Well, maybe I haven't performed enough big shows to be nervous because I don't really get nervous at open mics. But
it's comfort. It's comfort. Like you're this is your home.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. I didn't mean it to be that way, but it just ended.
That's how it is with me in the Madhouse, like in San Diego. Like, I was trying to get in at American Comedy Company and the La Jolla Comedy Store, but I just found my home at the Madhouse Comedy Club. So that's just how it happens.
How was the trip? When did you go? And
I flew out July 4th, and the trip went really well. I did 5 shows over 3 days, like 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, one random show on Sunday, and all the shows at the Madhouse, the 4 shows at Madhouse went really well. Got some good clips out of it.
Nice. I think I saw one.
Yeah. And then the Sunday show, I was nervous for that one. It was like at this kind of like a little bar/restaurant, and it was the first time my family saw me perform. Like my brother's seen me perform, and I think his wife also seen me perform, but it's the first time I performed in front of my nephews.
Yeah.
And the show went okay. Like it was okay.
Did you get any feedback from the family afterwards?
They said, like, my brother told me I had the most consistent set, like, as far as like the jokes landing and everything. So he said like other comics like had a 1 pop or 2 pops, but at least like mine was consistently like getting laughs.
That's I take that as good feedback. You know, because I've talked a lot about like, you know, laughs per minute, jokes per minute, you know, all that kind of stuff. And because me and Brian, you know, we talk a lot about like short jokes, and we write short jokes, and I'm trying to get into longer stuff too. But
I get it.
But Brian, you ever been down to San Diego?
Nope.
No.
Never been down there.
I've been down. I haven't done comedy down there, but it's
It's a great scene.
nice place, expensive place.
Yeah.
Pacific Beach, awesome. I went down there, but
I used to live in PB.
oh really?
Yeah, for a couple years, and then moved from there to the ghetto in San Diego.
Yeah.
So good times.
So both of you guys, you've been you've done a lot of scenes, a lot of different. What do you think? I guess starting with you, Brian. What's the kind of the strangest off the wall place that you never thought you would be doing comedy?
Probably the first thing that comes to mind is the Southgate roller rink.
Oh yeah, I love it. That was a good spot for me.
That's
Yeah.
kind of a weird place to tell jokes with having to pause sometimes.
Yeah.
For people rolling in front of you during your set.
It is an interesting, I mean, they've also done back in California. They used to have bands play at like roller rinks and stuff like that. Never a comedy though. I never heard of comedy. So.
Yeah, I've done a comedy show at a roller rink. That was there was no skating during the show, but like it was right in the middle of the rink, and like there was a stage in the middle of it. So
Nice.
Yeah, what else? Like for me, the weirdest place, like I wouldn't say it's weird, but the one that comes to my mind was I did like a house show in someone's backyard. It was an open mic. We drove from San Diego to Orange County for this mic because it was like the only Saturday mic in the region, and like it was in some guy's backyard. And like it was just funny because like, in the middle of my set, this dog just kept walking up to me, and it just plopped down in the middle of my set. I'm like, I'm getting heckled by a dog. I'm getting bullied, and he's getting more likes than me. So like, I guess that's off the top of my head, like I can't really think of anything else.
I once got invited to perform on top of a roof in Belltown. David Altamirano was dating some girl, and he wanted to throw this show on the rooftop, and he had this portable PA system that was battery powered, and like it just kept cutting out. And then like not during my set, but some of the other comic sets, once the battery started getting too low, it started talking and saying, battery is about to be low, please recharge through the PA. So getting heckled by the PA system.
Yeah,
like
no, at least if you have a bad set, you can just jump off.
yeah. But how about, I mean, we were talking earlier about Texas. Brian's done comedy in New York,
Nice.
L.A. What's the farthest place you guys have done comedy away from Seattle?
What about you?
For me, well, I never did comedy in New York.
Oh,
Had to clarify.
still have
yeah.
time. Still have
You got time.
But Chicago,
Yeah.
Austin, and in here. So yeah, Chicago and Austin
Yeah.
are probably the farthest
Hey,
away.
halfway there, halfway across the states.
I've done comedy in Virginia, North Carolina, and I've done comedy in Texas, Dallas specifically. And I did a comedy festival out there. I'm doing another comedy festival in North Carolina
Nice.
in September. And
I have a friend that lives in Asheville. His girlfriend is a comedian out there. So she was in a movie with Jennifer Aniston.
No biggie. Not the name drop. Not the name
But,
drop.
you know.
So Mike, what's the festival that you're doing?
It's just North Carolina Comedy Festival. It's ran by Jenny Stencil. She runs the Idiot Box in Greensboro, North Carolina. I did the festival back in 2017, 2018, and I had such a blast. It was one of the best festivals I ever did because like every night there was a place to hang. Like it's not just like your shows, but like just the fucking hang afterwards was fucking amazing. And I just remember that to this day. And like I was just like I've been like wanting to go back. Never had a reason. I took some time off from comedy, and then this year when I came back, I'm like I'm gonna hit up some festivals. Submitted to that one, and then got in. So now I'm just patiently waiting.
Yeah, I mean, kind of my whole plan is, it's I got a kid, I got a wife,
Yeah.
and job,
Leave
all
'em.
sorts of stuff. Trying to get all that together. But like, I think a lot of guys are going to Austin, and I would love to go, but like, I also don't want to go before I feel like I'm ready. Like, cause I hate to fantasize and stuff, because it's just what we do as comics. We think about what could happen, but I have seen, like, if you do good on that show, they invite you to be on other shows, and it's just like, you can have a good minute, and then you go do 10 minutes somewhere else, and it just bombs, and then people will remember that. That's their first impression of you. It's hard to get over, and so
you'd prefer to wait until you're ready, until you feel confident with a nice 10-minute set.
I mean, I have one now that I'm just not happy with. I'm the new comic, but I think what we're doing here, and I'm just trying to help contribute to this scene here a little bit, and then
you are.
then
You're doing it up. You're running this mic, and it's a great place for people to develop. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, and then I'm hoping that after 2-3 years, then I'll start doing the festival thing like you and start submitting and all that. But yeah, right now I just need people in Seattle to know who I am first, right?
Do you really?
No,
you don't need that.
Not really, but the people who know me, they know me. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only thing for me, since I came back, I only control I only focus on the controllables, which is just getting stage time or just getting up on stage and writing. That's the only thing I control. Like, who books me, is outside of my control. I can reach out to bookers, and it's up to them to decide whether or not they want to bring me on their show. But most of the times, I can't control that. So I just focus on just trying to develop as a comic, just develop my new voice. And then on top of that too, I thought about moving to Austin. I thought about moving to New York when I first got back into comedy back in February. But then I thought I looked at myself, and I'm just like, listen, since February to July, you developed a new 10-minute set that you're proud of. Look at what you've accomplished in Seattle within those 4 to 5 months. Just imagine if you just kept developing and then just kept getting better. Who knows where you'll end up? And so now it's just my whole, everyone wants to fly to New York, everyone wants to fly to Austin. I'm just gonna stay in Seattle, keep developing, just keep getting better, and then wherever I end up is where I'll end up.
I love that, man, and that's how I feel too. It's there's no need to rush and go out to I mean, if you're good, people will find you. I think. I mean, you need to work a little bit, and it's the social media thing is annoying, and I think that a lot of comics are really dropping the ball and missing an opportunity by not messing with social media. But hey, it's up to them.
It's up to them. You can't control that.
I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, but
you're figuring it out. You're learning to learn.
Yeah, I'm getting some traction on the podcast or the videos or whatever. So
you're learning the foundations. Because I did what you used to do, or what you're doing right now, just creating content.
Yeah.
You're building the foundation of. This may not be this podcast may never take. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No,
this may not be the thing.
This is not something that I care about being.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah?
So what I mean is but you're developing foundations for you're developing a skill set.
Yeah.
So that when you are ready, when the time is the right time, you'll have the skill set to propel you to that next level.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's all you're doing right now. You're just getting reps.
And also I'm trying to help you guys out.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I gave you props. I saw the clip today, and I was just that's a fucking great clip.
Well, and I found those. I found all three of them. I'll send them to you if you want.
I appreciate that.
It's really easy to. Somebody out there created a Kill Tony database with every comic that's ever been on it, and you can find that comic, and it'll show you every episode that they're on. So
it's amazing.
And so they have their three that are on.
They found it. Okay.
It was Steve-O and Kirk Fox, right? That was one of them.
Yeah.
And I forget what the other one was.
The other, I forget because it was in the belly room.
Yeah.
I forget that one. I just remember some guy danced before me.
Yeah.
he killed it with his Indian dancing.
Yeah.
And I went up with my lesbian joke. and that worked really well in the belly room.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, shit. What I guess at this point, both of you guys have been doing this quite a while.
10 years.
What do you think is probably the best piece of advice you've received from another comic, maybe a peer or somebody that you look up to?
Fuck. Iron sharpens iron. Surround yourself with people who will help. I don't know if it's the best. It's just I guess it's just my advice I'd give to other people is just like. Just stick to you. Stick to your guns. Stick to your values. Do what makes you like what you find funny, but also surround yourself with people who you find funny that are at the next level. So that way, like you can like level up with them, and not to like clout chase, not to like ride on coattails, but like just to get better, just to get funnier. Like I guess that's all I got.
Yeah, and not to ride coattails, but Jay Markovitz is my favorite comedian.
He's my top 7.
Yes. Brian, did you ever receive any good advice from another comic?
You know, I don't know if I could say that I actually got good advice from anybody, but what I will add, though, is from observing local comics who get booked more, part of, I think, getting booked more is that you're not a douche. Like, you're kind of cordial with people in general.
Yeah.
Like you...
Some people are douches, and they're just really funny. And like but I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Like,
but in general, what I've noticed is that the people who get booked a lot, it's not usually, in my opinion, because they're necessarily the funniest, but they do a lot of work to get booked, and then that could mean a lot of things. That that could mean just getting to every mic, and then everyone in the scene knows who you are. Like, there are guys like that. I know there are people who just on social media, they're just always pinging people.
Yeah. Like me.
So yeah, that's my observation.
Just like cordial, like just being like respectful and like just putting in the work. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, because like there are funny people who I think are really funny, and they're kind of
abrasive.
They don't play nice.
Yeah.
And that's gonna hurt them, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and we know a lot of the same people, so you probably know what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a maturity thing or what, but I just feel like as I get older, like it just like it feels like such a waste of time to just go out of your way to be disrespectful. If you just don't like it, just don't deal with it. Like. But some people, they thrive on the attention that they get from being negative, and that's basically all that, you know. And I'll say this, you know, a lot of people want to leave Seattle because they don't think it's a good comedy scene, and they think that that Seattle just doesn't support good comedy. And I really take that as a challenge, and it's like, well, then let's change the narrative, and it's like, let's just do our comedy, and eventually, if it's good enough, people will say, oh, you know what, we're wrong. Not all Seattle is queers to the front, which is like, you know, it's pretty great that they do that, but that's not everything here.
Yeah.
And that's, unfortunately, what I feel like the national view of Seattle is right now, you know, is that people think we're still Chop Zone. You know, we're just Capitol Hill and all that. And there's Burien, there's Tacoma, there's Marcus Cruz. What up?
The thing about that, though, is like the opinion of what Seattle comedy is. Again, that's one thing that's outside our control. Like, you can't control what people think of your scene. The only thing you can do is just prove them like, hey, I'm a comic from Seattle, and this is what I do.
Yeah, and I look at like what I've been thinking about with my comedy lately is like, it's not that it's not appropriate for certain audiences. It's like, it's those. There's a way of telling jokes for different rooms, and that's just that comes with being a better comic and being, you know, better, right? Yeah, experience. And I just don't think it's not I don't think it's fair to just blame the rooms. You know,
no,
it's not fair to blame the rooms when every room you're having issues in.
Yeah.
One thing that I've observed is that, I mean, just to be frank, comedians are a little nutty.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you get a lot of
drug addicts, lots of them.
A lot of mental illness, drug issues, all
depression.
That kind of stuff.
I think we're all depressed or anxiety or something.
So
autism.
It's good to understand that it's just a nutty kind of scene in general. Probably here, but then everywhere it's
Yeah.
going to be nutty in a different way, and then it's going to be clicky. Every scene is going to have their cliques. You know, the cool kids, the outsiders, the whatnot.
Yeah. It's
It's
every
human nature.
It's every scene. You're absolutely right. I experienced it in San Diego, L.A., Seattle, like Sacramento. Like it is everywhere. And the only thing you can control is just control what you can control. Like you can't control what like other comics think of you. You can just only focus on getting better. And like if people fuck with you, they fuck with you. If they don't, they don't. Like that. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've been in multiple scenes, and it's like it's interesting because I've seen like really nice people get booked on a lot of shows, but like in my opinion aren't that really funny. I've seen assholes just fucking open for huge names.
Yeah.
Like I know this one guy personally. Like he opens for a very, very popular comedian. He travels. They were just in Seattle like not too long ago. And he's very narcissistic. He's very, like, he plays the game really well. Funny motherfucker. Gave me a lot of opportunities, but he just uses people to get to where he's currently at.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, how do you, like, that's the industry. You know what I mean?
So your advice is to get good at using people and being a
Yes.
snake?
I would say just get, like, find your path.
Yeah.
Find what works for you. Develop it. I'm the type of person that just says stay true to yourself. This is like if you do like because I was in LA for a minute, and I part of the reason why I hated it was just like it was so fake. Like so many like comedians were just like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? Which means it's like, what can you do for my career?
Yeah.
And like it's just fucking like it's gross. So fortunately I left and I came back up here where none of that really fucking exists to my extent, to my knowledge. But I don't mean to be negative right now.
No.
Like, but I'm just saying like.
No, I think it's good to hear that's out there.
It's
People
out there,
are like
like
that.
because
you're
like
gonna have to deal with
you're
it.
gonna deal with it. Like if you choose to go to a different scene like L.A., New York, or Austin, you're gonna deal with like there's gonna be levels to this game.
Yeah.
There's like there's comedians out there that like think that like some open micers shouldn't be allowed to do comedy. And it's like you're gonna have to deal with all these different types of personalities. You're gonna have to deal with all these types of like just views on comedy and life in general. And it's just like how do you find yourself in the mix of all that before fame and all this. Yeah. So I know I'm just
I'm only been doing this a year and a half. Brian, almost 5 years.
Yeah.
You 10.
Oh, you keep saying 5. It's more like 2.
Well, you said 5.
Oh, I said 5 is when I kind of started
All
thinking
right. Well,
about it.
either
Yeah.
way,
just finding out the truth about you.
my perspective, and I haven't had to deal with these bad bookers, these fake people, stuff like that. The only thing that I'm thinking about is, I think a lot of people want somebody to help them get to the next level, and I'm just going to go straight to the people, I'm not going to rely on somebody at Comedy Bar to book me that maybe somebody there might see me and follow me. I'm just going to go online and find those people, and then maybe they'll come to my show.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I changed the past few months, and it seems to be working all right.
That's
so.
good. And like, can I share one of my experiences?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember when I was early on in comedy. I was probably about 2 or 3 years into comedy. I just got passed at the Madhouse with this old booker, but then he just moved to L.A.
Oh.
So there was a new booker, which actually was the same person that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like about that opens for the headliner.
Oh wow.
Like, and he became the booker, and then he stopped booking. Like he wanted nothing to do with me, and then And then I remember one time I pulled him aside like, hey man, I used to be booked at Madhouse. Can I get a weekend spot? He's like, no. He's straight to my face. He's like, no. And I was pissed off. But then I took a second. I was just like, okay, let me go to one of these weekend shows to see who he's booking. And then I went to see who was booking, and these were all fucking killers. These were like fucking Taylor Tomlinson, Ron Taylor, fucking Sam J, Jack Knight, like just these fucking
Comedy Store regulars now.
yeah, like
basically.
the fucking killers.
Yeah.
And like before anyone
Yeah.
knew who they were. And so when I saw what he was booking, what his level of what he views level of comedy, I was like, okay, I had to take an honest look at myself. I'm like, I am not there yet.
Yeah.
How do I get to that level? And then like I just kept watching these better comics and just learned and just fortunately got good enough to be booked by him. And he he gave me a lot of opportunities. He's an asshole, and he'll tell you that straight up. But he gave me a lot of, and I'm saying this in real time. Like it was as much as I was annoyed by his actions and like how things played out. I love him for what he what he taught to me in comedy.
And he also didn't baby you. He actually made it hard for you.
Yeah.
Which I think is definitely, there's some value to that.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And it's like I had to earn it.
Yeah.
He didn't coddle me. I just fucking I think part of that is some people in my experience would have said like, oh yeah, how can like the entitlement of comedy, like it's like, oh, like, how dare they not book me? But then like a lot of times these same comics aren't looking at themselves in an honest light. It's like, am I like, okay, compared to who they are booking, like what am I doing, what am I not doing? And it could be nothing to do with your comedy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it could like
Well,
you could be funnier than the people they're booking.
Yeah, but you just might not be a good fit for that kind of show.
Or they just don't like you.
Yeah.
Again, and this comes back to us saying why Laughs Comedy. They got a lot of white guys, a lot of straight white guys that are a lot funnier than me. So until some of those guys move out of town, I understand. You know.
Yeah.
I think you just need to transition.
Yeah. This is not that kind of show, Brian. Oh. Damn, going hour and 10 minutes. So I guess we'll just wrap it up. What kind of before that though? I mean, you got any plans like any goals for comedy? Any immediate goals?
I want to.
I mean, you said you were actually building. You wanted to build a.
I want to build 30. I want to start
30 minutes.
I want to start featuring again. And the only way I can do that is just by going to these mics and getting these longer sets and doing 30. So I just want to. If you want to support me, just give me stage time. If not, it's okay. I like. It is what it is. I'll just keep doing what I gotta do. If I gotta drive to Tacoma because no one in Seattle's booking me, I'll drive to Tacoma. So.
Well, I tell you, the thing that I really like is it's almost like you have more energy on stage than in person.
I do, yeah.
And I'm kind of like that, too. I mean, sometimes in person I can be pretty wild, too. But a lot of comics in Seattle are very subdued and laid back, and I just, I love the energy. So no offense to Brian. Brian's laid back. We give Brian a little bit of cocaine and it might be a different story, but yeah, Brian, any goals for comedy in the future? Immediate goals.
Immediate goals.
I would just like to perform for 50 people at least. That would be nice.
Yeah,
I haven't done more than 40, so
I think I'd like to try to work on longer sets and some longer bits.
Yeah.
I think I feel relatively comfortable with, the 10 to 15 minute range. I think right now it's a little bit of a stretch for me to do 20 to 30.
Yeah.
But I think I have the material. It's just finding a way to kind of put it all together where it kind of makes sense.
I understand. Yeah. It's a lot of random. It's like when I was a musician, I have a lot of unfinished songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear a bunch of unfinished songs. Maybe one or two, but this is the new one I'm working on.
Here's a riff.
Yeah. It's just a riff. All right. Any shows coming up? Well, I know me and Brian have a show on Saturday. By the time I put this online, it'll be done. But Peace of Mind with Nick Cody, the Tapped Out Comedy Show, and we're excited. The last time I was there, it was in January. It was a fun time. And
nice. Some
good people. Got Mike Heath and Roseanne Force and Keon Larry and some other people that
I think Scott Coburn's
hosting, yes.
Nice.
And some more people. Got some more people. So and then I got a show I'm going to produce here at the end of September, but we'll talk about that later. And then every every Thursday here, Whiskey Mile,
There you
Sam's
go.
open mic. And then Mike, I know you got something coming up, right?
Yeah, I got. I'll be in Portland, July 20th. I don't know when this comes out.
This will come out before that.
Okay, yeah. So I'll be in Portland Saturday, July 20th. I'll be doing 2 shows. One at 8:30. Like Leave Your Troubles at the Door, I think it's called. I don't know the venue, but I just know it's in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to message me on Instagram, I'll get that. I'll have that information by then. I'm also doing another show that night at midnight. It's called Stool Humping.
Ooh.
Yeah, with Adam Posse.
That
show.
sounds fun.
Yeah, dude, like I love Adam Posse. Like he's a Portland guy, and like we met during the actual Seattle International.
All
Comedy
right.
Competition. So.
All sorts of people
Yeah.
coming in.
And then other than that, I have the North Carolina Comedy Festival in September.
September. What you remember
September
the dates?
19th through the 21st.
North Carolina. So I'll put all the information on that so everybody can go see it. And other than that, I know it's Mike Devore on everything,
Mike,
right?
yeah,
and then Brian, yours is it's just Brian Fukuda, or is there a dot in there?
I think my IG is the funny Brian Fukuda.
Funny Brian Fukuda.
And if you just look up Brian Fukuda on some of the others, I'll pop up.
Yeah.
Fuck
And
yeah,
then
you will.
Stephen MJ Comedy on Instagram, all that. And then this is Comedy Simp Podcast. So, thanks for watching and supporting comedy. Thanks. All right. That was it, guys. We did it.
Yeah.
Comedy Simp, the podcast you can't resist. Stephen Michael J.